The wind screams across an endless expanse of white. Snow whips through the air like razor blades, cutting visibility to mere meters. The temperature has plunged to 20 degrees below freezing, and the sun hangs low and weak on the horizon, offering little warmth to the frozen landscape below. This is Europe, 1 million years ago. This is the edge of an ice age that will test every limit of survival. And somewhere in this merciless wilderness, a small band of creatures moves through the storm. They are not yet us, but they are our ancestors. They are Homo erectus, and they are about to face extinction. Around 1.1 million years ago, a catastrophic cooling event struck the planet with unprecedented fury. Research shows climate around the Mediterranean became inhospitable for archaic humans during this period. Ocean currents collapsed, temperatures plummeted, and the world that early humans had known for hundreds of thousands of years simply vanished beneath sheets of ice. For the small populations of Homo erectus struggling to survive in Europe, this was not just another cold winter. This was an apocalypse. Archaeological evidence reveals a chilling truth. For the next 200,000 years, there will be no human footprints in the snow, no campfires burning against the darkness, no stone tools left behind. Europe became a ghost continent, emptied of human life. The species that had walked upright, that had discovered fire, that had spread across continents, they were gone. But what were these people, and how had they survived for so long before this final catastrophic test? Homo erectus first emerged in Africa roughly 2 million years ago, and they represented a quantum leap in human evolution. With human-like body proportions, upright stance, and the ability to walk and possibly run long distances, they were the first of our ancestors to truly dominate their environment. Standing between 4 feet 9 inches and 6 feet tall, they possessed brains averaging between 750 and 900 cubic centimeters, considerably larger than any hominin that came before, though still only about 60% the size of our modern brains. Their skulls were distinctive, long and low, with pronounced brow ridges that jutted out over deep-set eyes, giving them an appearance both primitive and strangely human. Their faces were large, flat, and prognathic, jutting forward without the chin that would later define our species. But beneath this archaic exterior beat the heart of a survivor, a creature of remarkable adaptability and intelligence. These were not shambling, brutish creatures cowering in caves. Homo erectus was the most successful human species that ever lived, surviving for nearly 2 million years across 2 continents, outlasting every other hominin by a factor of 9, compared to our own species' brief tenure on Earth. They were the first to leave Africa, spreading across Asia to reach Indonesia and China, pushing into the cold grasslands of Europe, adapting to environments ranging from tropical forests to temperate woodlands to the brutal steppes at the edge of glaciers. They were the first hunter-gatherers, coordinating their hunting behavior and demonstrating capacity for complex communication. This was not luck. This was intelligence, cooperation, and an iron will to survive. The world 1 million years ago was a place of staggering harshness, especially during the onset of the glacial period. Imagine standing on the Spanish plateau or the plains of what is now France. The landscape stretches before you, endless and empty. Where forests once stood, there is now only sparse, wind-swept grassland, interrupted by rocky outcrops and seasonal streams that freeze solid for half the year. The temperature rarely rises above freezing even in summer, and winter brings storms of apocalyptic violence. Snow accumulates in drifts 10 feet high, burying the landscape for months on end. The air is so dry it burns your lungs with every breath, stripping moisture from your body even as you shiver uncontrollably. At night, the temperature drops to -30, -40 degrees. Without proper shelter, without fire, without clothing, death comes in hours. The animals that shared this landscape were giants, creatures that would dwarf anything alive today. Massive elephants with thick coats of fur trudged through the snow, their curved tusks sweeping aside drifts as they searched for buried vegetation. Rhinoceroses armored with thick hides and layered fat grazed on hardy grasses, their breath steaming in the frigid air. Wild horses moved in herds across the open plains, their hooves pounding the frozen ground. These were the prey that Homo erectus hunted, but they were also competition and danger. Cave bears weighing half a ton claimed the best shelters. Saber-toothed cats stalked the same herds, their massive canines capable of piercing even the thickest hide. Packs of dire wolves, larger and more powerful than modern wolves, hunted cooperatively just as humans did. In this world, Homo erectus was not at the top of the food chain. They were somewhere in the middle, vulnerable to predators, struggling against the cold, fighting for every meal. But they had tools, and tools changed everything. Unlike earlier hominins that developed crude choppers and flakes, Homo erectus produced sophisticated stone axes, sharp cleavers, and finger-sized scrapers to slice meat. The signature tool of Homo erectus was the Aculane hand axe, a teardrop-shaped implement that required extraordinary skill to create. The toolmaker would select a core of high-quality stone, flint or chert or quartzite, and then strike it repeatedly with precise blows to create a symmetrical, bifacially flaked blade. This was not random knapping. This required planning, foresight, an understanding of three-dimensional geometry, and the ability to visualize the finished product before the first strike was made. These hand axes were so effective, so perfectly adapted to their purpose, that they remained virtually unchanged for over 1,000,000 years, the longest-running technology in human history. With these tools, Homo erectus became efficient hunters. They developed wooden spears, hardened in fire to create sharp points capable of piercing thick hide. Homo erectus used wooden spears, probably thrusting them into large prey from up close. Evidence from sites like Olorsili in Kenya shows thousands of these tools scattered among the butchered remains of elephants and other massive animals, proof of successful hunts conducted over millennia. They did not hunt alone. Fossil trackways from Ileret, Kenya, show a probably all-male band of over 20 Homo erectus individuals, possibly a hunting party. These were coordinated group efforts, requiring communication, strategy, and the ability to trust one another in moments of extreme danger. Hunting a mammoth or elephant was an act of controlled chaos. The hunters would track their prey for days, reading signs in the landscape, following trails through the snow, waiting for the right moment. When they found weakness, a young animal separated from the herd, an old bull slowed by age or injury, they would strike. Some would approach from the front, shouting and waving torches to confuse and frighten the animal. Others would flank from the sides, darting in to thrust spears into vulnerable spots behind the front legs, into the soft flesh of the belly. The animal would trumpet in rage and pain, spinning to face its attackers, and the hunters would scatter, only to regroup and attack again. It was exhausting, terrifying work. One misstep meant being crushed beneath several tons of muscle and bone, or gored by massive tusks, or trampled into the frozen earth. But if they succeeded, if they brought down their prey, they would feast. Hundreds of pounds of meat, enough to feed the band for weeks, along with fat for fuel, bones for tools, and hide for shelter. The cold was the constant enemy, more deadly than any predator. Early humans were particularly vulnerable due to their lack of natural insulation like fat and the absence of advanced coping mechanisms such as fire-making, warm clothing, or suitable shelter. Unlike Neanderthals, who would evolve later with stockier builds and adaptations to cold, Homo erectus 1,000,000 years ago had relatively lean bodies, less subcutaneous fat, and no biological defense against the brutal temperatures. They had to rely entirely on technology and behavior to survive, and the evidence suggests they did, though just barely. Shelter was critical. Homo erectus constructed 50-foot-long branch huts with stone slabs or animal skins for floors. At sites like Bilsingsleben in Germany, archaeologists have found circular foundations of bone and stone, 9 to 13 feet across, with an elephant tusk in the center that may have served as a support post. These were not crude windbreaks. These were engineered structures, built to withstand the weight of snow, to block the